Yeah, these days I'm pretty flabbergasted too, Polly. That's a word we should use more often. What was that? Blackouts between 4 and 7 o'clock? Introduced by the head guy of the National Grid at a transitioning conference. I think that's rubbish about transitioning to net zero or renewables or whatever it is. But what seems to be obvious when you've got blackouts between 4 and 7 p.m. in the dead of winter is that you're actually transitioning out of the developed world, which seems to be what's happening here. A Tory optimist is someone who thinks the party is heading for a 1997 scale defeat. A Tory pessimist, actually a Tory realist, is someone who thinks the party is heading for a 1993 scale defeat when Canada's Tory government was reduced to just 2 seats. It won't be 2, don't worry, it might be 7 seats, 12 maybe, but it will be catastrophe and wholly self-inflicted. Here's the latest polling showing Labour, look at this, with a majority of 364. That's not the number of seats, by the way, that's the majority. The number of seats would be 507 Labour MPs out of 650, which leaves 143 seats to be divided up between all the fringe parties, the Shinners, Plaid Cymru, etc., and the Conservatives. If this poll were to prove true, the Tories wouldn't even be the official opposition. That would be the Scottish National Party. That's very Canadian too. In 1993, the Tories so screwed themselves that the Quebec Secessionist Party became Her Majesty's loyal opposition. That's them in number 2 position there, 54 seats. And if you're wondering, wait a minute, a secessionist party is the loyal opposition? Bingo! They weren't in the least bit loyal to Her Majesty. They didn't recognise her as Queen of Canada because they didn't recognise Canada as the country they were in. And so it will be on that day when the SNP takes over as His Majesty's loyal opposition. So these useless, hollow, unprincipled, nothing husks heading for one almighty rendezvous with destiny. And one regrets it, mainly because Sir Neil's a lot and the Ginger Growler will be even worse. And actually, with a 364-seat Labour majority and the SNP as the opposition, there is literally nothing those guys couldn't do. And yet, there is one thing the ghastly, unprincipled Tories could do that would win them the election and save their seats both in the Red Wall and the Leafy Shires, and that is, it's a simple thing. It's one simple thing, and it doesn't involve the economy or price caps or any of that, because basically that's too complex for these guys to fix now. So this is simple. To end decisively the nightly migrant invasion on the southern shore. Oh, no, we would do it if we could, but it's all very complicated and legalistic. Really? As we've seen over the last 2.5 years, it's not in the least bit complicated when they want to do it to you. You can't take off for a week on the Costa if they so decide, but Ahmed from Jalalabad can stroll in and be put up in a luxurious country house hotel, such as Dunchurch Park, near Rugby, Warwickshire, very leafy. Look at that, lovely. And as part of his holiday package, Ahmed gets not just afternoon tea, but also 2 complimentary GP visits a week. If you're a citizen of the United Kingdom and you're unfamiliar with the term GP, don't worry your pretty little head about it, because you're not going to be needing to use the term GP in any foreseeable future. It's strictly for Ahmed and Bashir. So the British state can do it to you, as it demonstrated effortlessly throughout 2020. It can fine you for sitting on a bench in a public park. It can cancel your Christmas observances. It can even order a bloke from Zone 3 not to get his leg over a bird from Zone 2, or whatever Boris's cockamamie bonk-free zone regulations were. It can dictate every aspect of human existence for you, because this pandemic is so serious that the likes of Jeremy Vine Colossus of Radio 2 and whatever that TV channel is, Jeremy Vine is already pillow munching for the next wave.
Sore throat, headache, cough, aches and pains, and a Joy Division t-shirt. So I'm in bed with COVID.
Oh, I'm in bed. Oh, I'm in bed with it, with COVID. Locked down the nation. Is my croak sounding croaky enough? Lock down the nation now. Compulsory pillow munching for the next fortnight. But lock down the nation's borders? Oh, don't even think about it. Under these horrible, hollow, pseudo-conservatives, the institutions of the British state now work for everyone but the British people. The border force does not enforce the border, but facilitates its disintegration daily. The Royal National Lifeboat Institution, for 2 centuries, a respected charitable institution, very courageous in the waters around the British Isles, instead now runs an express nightly shuttle from French waters to the English coast for 1,000 strapping young men a night. These organisations, Border Force, RNLI, the Home Office, are making the job of the human traffickers easier and far more profitable. They are, in effect, the business partners of the human traffickers, the sex slavers, the drug gangs. Yesterday on this show, our friend David brought up the case of a 12-year-old Parisian girl, Lola David. There she is, a little 12-year-old girl, a child. And when I say the case of Lola David, I mean case literally. What was left of her was found stuffed in a suitcase. She had been raped, tortured, killed, and the imprinting of numbers on her corpse suggests her body parts were being harvested for sale. Nobody cares any more than they care about the young girls gang raped in Telford and Rotherham and Oldham and your town here, or the 11-year-old unaccompanied minors who mysteriously go missing from migrant hotels. So the Border Force and the RNLI ferry in unaccompanied minors in order to ensure the smoother flow of the child prostitution racket and the body parts market. As David Starkey said yesterday, these gruesome remnants of a once great political party who believe in nothing are hardly worth talking about. But you Tory guys want to save your worthless skins, don't you? Then end this. End this. Not for the boys and girls. I don't suppose you care about them one way or the other any more than you care about the girls in Rotherham and Oldham and all the other towns. But do it to save yourselves. It's an emergency, just like the big scary bat out of Wuhan that meant you could arrest people because they went to a Costa that was not the closest one to their home. That's a great law, isn't it? And very compatible with English liberty. So if you could do that, why don't you pull out of the European Court of Human Rights and take emergency measures on this? And it might be enough to save you from a 1993 Canadian wipeout that you useless tossers from top to toe thoroughly deserve.